Hi. How are you doing today? Can you believe you're almost done with this school year? I know it's been like a really crazy school year, but like tomorrow is like not tomorrow. Next week is like the last week of like schoolwork type school. Um, okay, so did did you have any like questions about since we are kind of coming up on the end of the semester? Um, I wanted to know if there were any questions that you had about anything that I might be able to answer. And also, just as a reminder, I know you probably saw the email. Some of you might have already, turned stuff in and whatnot. But for like the notebook checks for Unit 6 and 7, if you could turn that in, as soon as you can, that would be great. Hi. Ideally, you should have already finished Unit 7, which was the ecology unit, like a while ago, before you even started seeing my face. So, supposedly, Unit 6 and 7 should have been done for a long time by now. So, just record your video and submit that as soon as you can, if you haven't already. Just make sure that in your video it's clear enough that I would be able to like read it if I like paused it, and so I could like look at stuff like that. Just because like if I can't read it, I can't really like see what you've done. It needs to be able to be like, as if I had your notebook in my actual hands and I could like look through it. But since I can't actually hold your notebook, you have to make it so that I'm sort of virtually able to hold your notebook and look through it. Were there any questions about notebook checks, end of the semester stuff, anything about your last 3 weeks of school? Have you, those of you that are here, have you submitted your Unit 6 and 7 notebook check already? And that's why you have no questions about the notebook check, because you've already done it? Yes? No? What do you mean, what happens to the seniors? Like, for their graduation? In terms of like a graduation ceremony, I mean, like it's not going to be like a normal one, obviously, but I don't know if Mills is planning on doing like a virtual one. I think there was also some talk of kind of inviting seniors back to, or graduating seniors right now, inviting them back for like a ceremony like next winter. I think that was an idea that was floating around, but nothing, I don't know. I haven't heard of anything that was like, we are doing this for sure. I do know that Mr. Wang had sent an email out to his AP Bio class, because there are some seniors in that class, and he had told them about how YouTube is partnering with a bunch of like really famous people like Lady Gaga, Michelle Obama, other like well-known political figures and celebrity figures, to do like a sort of ceremony for all of the graduating seniors in America. So I know Mr. Wang emailed them that, just if they want to be part of like a large collective virtual ceremony. But yeah, I don't know if that's what you meant by what happens to the seniors. I'm just assuming that that's what you were asking about. Any other questions? Yeah, pretty cool, huh? I'll kind of just answer or highlight some of the questions that came up in 5th period, just so like, in case you like were wondering this but you don't want to say in the chat, or maybe you didn't even realize that you were wondering about this. UV light. Okay, I haven't like looked into that, or nor have I really heard about UV light killing coronavirus. I would have to look that up, but I would assume that, well, because so what makes UV light what it is that it's light that is traveling at a very high frequency, and so because it has a high frequency, it has a lot of energy, because so like frequency is like how fast the light wave is like going through, and so the faster it's like fluctuating, it just has more energy, and so this can be really dangerous for our cells, just because when your cells are being hit with that much energy, it can damage them, and so that's how you can get like skin cancer and stuff like that. And so, just based off of my understanding of how UV light is dangerous to our cells, just because you're hitting them with so much energy, I would guess that because it can harm cells like that, or kill cells like that, it could be harmful to other things that are on the same size level as a cell, such as viruses and bacteria. Yeah, so maybe it might be used as a sort of therapy, but it's kind of dangerous, just because it's like how when you have cancer treatment, the radiation can kill cancer cells and our non-cancer cells. So I would guess that for the same reason, UV light as a therapy might be a little dangerous, in that like it wouldn't just kill coronavirus, it would damage our normal cells as well. Oh, for disinfecting surfaces? Yeah, well, I guess just like well, because UV light, it has such a high energy, it probably just like damages, it probably like damages the virus because of like it's being hit with such a high frequency of light, and so it's like being hit with like a very high amount of, or a very concentrated amount of energy, and it probably just like damages its ability to survive. That's like, I'm piecing that together just based off of like what I know currently about like how UV light can be hurtful to our living cells, and a virus is also a living thing about the same, on a similar size of a cell. So I'm just assuming it works the same way. Okay, so this is some things, just to make sure you're aware of this. There's going to be one more quiz for human impact, and that's going to be Monday, and it's only going to be, all the questions in that quiz are going to be based off of the last 2 weeks of lecture, like that lecture that I did on living unsustainably, which was last Monday, and then the lecture that I did this past Monday, which was on pollution and waste. So just those 2 notes that you have. All the questions are going to come from those two like notes things. It's just going to be 10 points like last time. Nothing like too high stakes or anything. And do make sure that you are doing those quizzes, like the human impact quiz, the ecology one, the evolution one, because those quizzes are factoring into like your, the points that you're getting to make up your grade. And if you're missing too many, points, then you just want to make sure that you're still gonna get a 60% in the class, because that's what you need to get credit. And your final, so the timeline that we're looking at for the next 3 weeks. Next week you're finishing up human impact. The last assignment is on Wednesday, so that you have time Thursday, Friday, and the weekend to kind of finish up everything you need to do for that unit, and then do your video, and then send your video so that we can grade it and give you the points for that notebook check. So Unit 6 and 7, your notebook check is together, but Unit 8 is going to be like a separate video, separate notebook check. Okay, so you'll finish that next week, and then the following week is like your review week before finals, and I think that's when Mr. Wang is going to make the final go live. I'm not entirely sure though, and I don't have a lot of answers about the final, just because he is not fully finished like figuring out the details about it. Yeah, correct, Andrew. It's only 6 and 7 this week. Yeah, Mr. Wang hasn't, finished doing all the details about the final himself. So questions like, is it only going to be multiple choice, or how many questions is it going to be? I don't have the answer to that, and I don't think he has the answer for that either. Yeah, so finals week is still the same week, so like the last week of May is finals week. What I've read in from Ms. Duzinski and the board and whatnot is that the test, like the final exam, it's supposed to be made available for a week so that you're not limited to a certain time slot. I don't know if every teacher is going to do it that way, because teachers do what they're going to do. But I know that Mr. Wang is going to make his final available for a week. And it's going to be like a Canvas quiz, like a very long Canvas quiz. I think just from when I was at the science department meeting yesterday, pretty much all the other science teachers, they're doing like a Canvas type exam, a Canvas quiz as their final. Yeah, so I would probably expect that. And the final is going to be worth 150 points. So that's definitely not something that I would just be like, okay, I'm not going to do my final. I would definitely highly, strongly recommend that you do your final and don't miss it. And for your other classes too, I recommend you do your final for all of your classes, because I've heard of some teachers saying I know there's at least one teacher in the science department that is saying if a student doesn't take the final, the student is not going to get credit. Like, the student has to take the final to get, it's like a mandatory requirement to get credit in the class. I don't think Mr. Wang is going to be that strict about it, but I'm just saying, with your other classes, your teachers might do that. So if you haven't been taking the quizzes for this class, make sure you at least take your finals for all your classes. And if you need me to unlock any of the quizzes, you just need to email me and I'll unlock it. Are there any other questions about what's going to be happening logistically for the next 3 weeks? Okay. I don't know how many of you had been following along with the activities and doing the trash audit. I don't know if you started last week, so then you finished already, or maybe you're still in the middle of your trash audit. That's fine, doesn't matter. But if you did finish yours already, go ahead and comment in the chat kind of some of your observations of what was in your trash audit. I finished mine today, and so I just looked through it before I started doing live streaming. So I would say the only things that were kind of that's kind of interesting that ended up being in my trash this week was I had a little perfume bottle. It was like a plastic perfume type bottle thing. It's super tiny. It was given to me a long time ago, and I was just I don't want to throw it away or waste it, so I just decided to just use it up or something. But anyway, I finally finished that up, so that I threw that away. I finished my shampoo this week, so I had to replace the shampoo bottle. And I had a couple of juice boxes in my trash too. So I noticed if I kind of just if I'm looking through the list and I'm kind of just drawing some general trends or general patterns. Most of it is food related, or food and beverage related, which isn't surprising to me. This is my third time doing a trash audit, so I already knew from the first two that most of my trash tends, I think for everybody, most of your trash tends to come from food stuff, because I can barely think of a single thing besides fruits and vegetables that you can buy at the grocery store that doesn't have something around it that you have to throw away at some point. But you know, there were like some other stuff that was like, you know, not food related, like the shampoo bottle or the little perfume thingy. So some like, you know, hygiene stuff or whatever. I didn't do a rate like I asked you to in your trash audit analysis, just because I don't know, because I only looked at the results like literally right before fifth period's live stream. But when I do trash audits, I try to think, so like, you know, like I said, the point of the trash audit is for you to be more aware of what it is that you throw away. And some things are kind of, you know, the perfume bottle, that's kind of like a one-time thing because I don't wear perfume, and it was just given to me as a gift. Other things, like I used up a loaf, I finished a loaf of bread at some point, yesterday actually. And anytime you buy bread from the grocery store, you know, it comes in a little plastic bag thingy, and so that's something I threw away. So I've been thinking or trying to think of ways that I can limit or decrease the amount of food-related trash that I'm throwing away. And like the example I thought about this for a while, and I shared with fifth period, and you know, I really wanted to get to kind of start trying this out, but I think the whole pandemic thing, it kind of just threw a fork in all my plans. But you know, with bread, you know, how could I not have the trash of the, you know, bread bag? Well, I could make my own bread, and there are some people in fifth period that actually do make their own bread, so that's amazing. I could make my own bread, that's one option, or I could go to a bakery, like a local bakery that makes bread, and I could buy it from them, and then most likely it's not going to be in plastic packaging. Or you could probably, you know, if it's like a small bakery, you could ask them like, hey, could I just have it like without the wrapping or whatever, and you could just like maybe bring your own like bag or container or something, and they're probably much more likely to abide by that just because they're a small bakery. So like those were two options that I thought of that could be potential solutions to like reduce my trash, my food-related trash. Haven't tried it yet because there's like no yeast anywhere in any grocery store every time I check when I go get when I get groceries. I'm also just aware that, like, you know, buying stuff from local bakeries, like this one bakery that I found in downtown San Mateo, it's called Backhouse, and they have artisan bread that they make every morning, and they put their pastries in like a paper bag, so it's like, you know, compostable and everything, but it's kind of expensive. So you know, I'm kind of aware that like being like sustainable and environmentally friendly, it's not always a cheap thing. And when you go to the grocery stores, one of the reasons that I had you kind of explore your fridge, your freezer, or pantry, or whatever it was on Tuesday, was that if we weren't in lockdown, what I would have preferred that you do is to actually go to your grocery store and kind of look around. But you know, because I want you to be safe and not spend time around people. But like, if you ever go grocery shopping with your parents or by yourself or whatever, it's really, really hard to find the things that are like zero waste, in the sense that you're not throwing something away, or even where the packaging is like recyclable slash compostable. So like, the system is really, really set up against you. It's really, really difficult to be living sustainably or environmentally friendly. And I think that's one of the things that I wanted you to realize, just that like it feels hard because it is hard. Like they don't make it easy to like be environmentally friendly. And I think like knowing that, it allows you to like just have a little more like grace on yourself, because anytime you do anything that is kind of like better for the environment or whatever, you're going upstream. You're doing something against the normal flow of society, and it's always going to be like a little inconvenient and kind of difficult. And so I guess I wanted you to realize that, just so that just so that you don't feel like discouraged whenever you do try doing things like that. Yeah, I know. Trader Joe's was out every time I go to Sprouts, they don't have any yeast. Lucky's doesn't have any yeast. It's like everyone and their mother bought all the yeast in the world to make their own bread. Yeah, so those are the things that I noticed in my trash audit. Did any of you guys do your trash audit and notice anything? Okay, well, that's okay. If you haven't done it, I know you're kind of running out of time, because at some point you need to turn in your chapter 8 stuff. So it's okay if you kind of decide like, this is an activity that takes a week long. I think you're gonna leave that activity out and just not get the 10 points for that. That's fine. I'm not offended, because you gotta decide for yourself what's realistic for you to do. You've got other classes. I recognize that biology isn't the only class that you have, and while I've heard pretty consistently that the workload that I'm putting out for you guys isn't that bad, that I also know that some of you have other classes where there is a very high workload. So I totally understand that, like, you have to decide like how you're gonna prioritize your time. You have to make some sacrifices. But if you did kind of find the idea, if you were kind of like curious about the idea, or if you just kind of like, if what we've been talking about in human impact, it does interest you, but maybe wasn't a very ideal time for you to be exploring all this, I would really recommend that you can always do these activities in the summer. You can just remember, there was a trash audit activity that I never got to do, and maybe you can do it in the summer. I don't know, like ideally, I probably, for myself, I like to do an audit every now and then, like every few months, just to kind of see like, hey, like, am I making any changes, or is it decreasing or increasing or whatever. Wait, what do you mean? This, what is the this? Like, do you mean the shelter in place, or? Oh, quarantine? Honestly, it's hard to say. I do know that, it looks like they're starting to lift restrictions slowly. Like, this past Monday, San Mateo County opened up trails and parks and stuff like that. And I think this Friday, they're going to start lifting some restrictions on like outdoorsy type businesses, like maybe golf courses or something like that. But the reason I say it's a little hard to say is because if we started opening things up, let's say, because it looked like, you know, we're flattening the curve and it looks like things are on the decline, but then it like spiked up again, then we'd have to like pull back and start like closing things again. So it's a little hard to say. I think though that the Bay Area in particular has been pretty good about like flattening the curve and like declining in terms of like infections and stuff like that. So I think like throughout May and June, the quarantine is gonna like, you know, start lifting. Not all at the same time, but like things like you might be able to go to restaurants again or something. Yeah, but it's just a little hard to say because it's very like everything has to be lifted in a very incremental process. I think, well, the thing about the next time is that as more time goes on and, you know, doctors and scientists and everyone, they're trying out different therapies and seeing like, oh, does this work? Does it work better when we do it this way, or blah, blah, blah. And doctors are learning like on the job, like, which is kind of unfortunate because it's like all the current people with coronavirus are basically the guinea pigs for all the doctors and nurses and everyone trying to figure out like what is the most effective way to like help these people. So like it sounds really terrible when you phrase it this way, but with each person that is currently infected, they're like a new opportunity for doctors to do a different experiment on like what works better. So with each passing person kind of acting as a guinea pig kind of, doctors get a better idea of what works, what doesn't work, what's effective, what helps and stuff like that. And so I don't know if it's necessarily like we're gonna do anything different, but I think we'll have more information, and that's a really powerful asset, and it allows us to like act faster, and it allows our actions to be actions that actually count, instead of like trying out a billion different things and hoping that something is going to work. So hopefully it just means that like when people get sick, then when they go to the hospital, they can actually get really effective treatment and then recover faster and be out of the hospital faster. How would you say your stress levels are doing with this whole, like, we're coming up on 2 months of quarantine? Like, is it kind of, are you getting more stressed or more agitated just because it's been so long now, or is it like you're less stressed just because at the beginning it was like, whoa, what's happening, but now you're just kind of used to it? Okay. Yeah, for myself, I think like at first it was like, oh, this, you know, well, you know, nothing like this had ever happened before in my life, but I think my like agitation has been like increasing, in the sense that like I want to like go out and be able to do things that I need to be able to do. And you know, like the weather is getting really nice, and like I want to go do stuff outside and not have to worry about like, oh, is there gonna be a lot of people, and also like I went to the bank the other day because I wanted to drop off a deposited check, and I just grabbed my bag and my keys and then forgot to bring my mask, and I was already in the car, and I was like, oh. But like I didn't want to turn back around and go back to get my mask, so I just like parked in the bank, and I like sat in the parking lot waiting for it to be like empty near the ATM, and just like ran over and deposited. But like stuff like that, like I hate that like I have to remember to like, oh, bring a mask with me everywhere I go and stuff like that. So I think like I'm just getting more agitated about stuff like that. Yeah, I would say with schoolwork, like, I mean, you know, of course, Mr. Wang and I would, you know, ideally love for all of our students to, you know, really take advantage of all these learning opportunities and to just like, you know, enjoy this unit for the sake of learning. And I really hope that some of these activities, you know, have not been like super like, I don't know, bookish. And I've tried to make the activities more interactive and something that's actually like, you know, something that would make you curious or be, you know, kind of interesting. But both Mr. Wang and I recognize that like this is such a crazy time, and we practically know that not everyone has the capacity to be like doing everything for every class. And so it's okay to like, it's okay if you're just thinking like, I just need to stay above 60%, I can be at like 68% by the time I finish the final and not do anything else. And that's okay. Like, we are not like offended or anything, or we would like judge you or anything like that, just because like, I understand that at this point it's kind of like you're pretty much are just like, you just need to make sure in all your classes you're getting credit, and that's good enough. So good enough is like a very okay thing like right now. Okay. Right. For this semester is not going to show up as a grade. It's just gonna be credit, no credit. And it's not even gonna be like, it says credit, but there's like a hidden actual grade underneath. It's not like that. It's just like, there is no grade for this semester. And it won't affect your GPA at all. It can't increase or decrease your GPA. The only thing it's doing is just saying that you have fulfilled a requirement for high school. Yeah, it is kind of nice that, like, especially if you're feeling kind of overwhelmed, it's kind of comforting just to know that, like, literally a D is no different from an A, right, in this case. So colleges would not be able to tell the difference between someone who would have gotten an A and someone who would have gotten a D for this class or any of your classes. So I would suggest that make sure that you are comfortably above the credit line. Like, and when I say comfortably, I just mean like you have a little bit of a buffer so that your final, you don't want to be like at 60% and then take your final and then it possibly like drops you a percentage. You want to be like, you know, at least high 60s so that your final probably won't rock things too much. And if you're kind of comfortably at that point with all your classes, then just maybe if you have the capacity after that, but if you don't, because you're like already at max capacity, totally fine. But I think after that, when you know like, okay, my classes are fine, I'm gonna get credit, I think only then like you're actually able to relax enough to think about like, oh, like, you know, is there anything in my classes that was actually interesting, that was like that maybe you want to take a closer look at, just for the sake of like being interested in something. But yeah, like it's okay if it doesn't happen like that for you, just because everyone's different. Everybody is handling this thing differently, and there's no right or wrong way. Okay, any other questions about anything, or if you want to ask me anything, or my narwhal anything? Well, Narzi is a girl, so I don't think she wants to have a mustache. Are any of you doing like those, like kind of like the no shave November, but like no shave quarantine or whatever? I have some friends that like, guy friends that like, they just have not. I don't know. That is completely unknown. Just because I don't think it's going to be pass fail next year. I think they did it like this for this semester because, again, like it was so sudden. It caught people off guard. People weren't ready for this, and so there was like a lot of trauma for some families and stress adjusting to the new situation. But I think if this happened, if the situation's kept going, I think they might not do pass fail. I don't know though. Like I don't think anybody's even thinking about next fall yet. They're just trying to finish up this school year and worry about like how to tie up all loose ends for this semester first. Did you guys get notifications about your textbooks and turning in your textbook stuff? I didn't know exactly what the procedure is, just because I kind of ignored it because it's like I'm not a student and I don't have a textbook, and but I know they're trying to have some sort of system for you to return your textbooks / get stuff out of your locker. But I don't really know what the procedure is going to be about that. Okay, well, it looks like there's no more questions. And I assume you're okay, like you understand what's expected for the notebook checks and stuff like that. So please get those in. Best time for you to invest in stocks. Not right now. Don't make any changes right now. Okay, so do get your videos in. The sooner you get your videos in, the faster I'll probably get around to grading them, because I'll do it in time order. And then you'll have a clearer, once I start putting the points in, you'll get a clearer idea about where your grade actually is and how much buffer you have. I've already put in the points for that first human impact quiz that you took. So if you took it already and you did it, then you got points for it. If you didn't, you don't have points for it, / you may get a 0 until you take it. So yeah, just make sure you do those. You do the quizzes. If you need me to reopen any of the past quizzes, just email me and I'll open the quiz for you. Okay. Next Thursday is my last time seeing you, because next week is my last week, and then after that Mr. Wang comes back. So my last live stream with you is going to be next Thursday. So yeah, I was just like a heads up about that. Okay, well then, I hope you have a good weekend. I think it's going to be pretty good weather, so maybe try to get outside and hang out in the driveway or something. But yeah, have a good rest of your day. Bye!